Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Spiritually Challenged. I'm Jay Sherrick. There he is again, my good friend and writing partner.
David Ron.
And are you there again?
I am here again.
There he is
again.
And we actually have a fantastic guest with us today, right here in the
studio,
in the Spiritually Challenged studios. You're in some ways, this is our first legit celebrity. Yeah,
you're our celebrity guest.
Yeah, I would have called myself that.
We are here with Kaivon August, who is a star in the EDM world. I have seen you performing in front of tens of thousands of people at your big festivals. I've gone to one of your shows. Mm-hmm. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm flattered.
So, Kaivon, let's just start with, how do I know you?
Right. So, I went to school with your son.
Yes, you did.
Oliver. And, geez, that was 16 years ago now.
That's right.
So,
high school.
Middle school
With my son Oliver.
6th and 7th grade, yeah.
Are you same age?
We are the same age. We're actually 1 day apart.
Oh, wow.
Our birthdays are 1 day apart.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You were in our world for a while, and then you went off and went to another school, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Went to Wildwood, then went to public school and went to Catholic school, so I've tried all the schools.
Tried all the schools? What's your feeling at the end of it all? Where should people go?
Well, I had a bad time at all of them,
okay.
but I'm really appreciative of all of them because I feel like they shaped me into who I am.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'm really grateful for all of them.
That's cool.
Sweet. But what's interesting is I have an interesting perspective on your life because you may be a big star, but I knew you when you were just a little, 12-year-old punk, right?
Yeah.
Right? But here you are with, first of all, fantastic hair.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think you're
so jealous.
I think you're taunting me with the hair.
The hair is definitely a jealousy.
It seemed a little
factor.
excessive, not entirely necessary. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was young, I tried to grow my hair that long, and it wouldn't.
Oh, really?
No, it would grow out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't grow down. It was just weird.
I get this question after every show, what shampoo and conditioner I use.
That's hilarious, really?
Yeah, and I always give a disappointing answer because it's just like Head and Shoulders and Pantene, and they're expecting some expensive
fancy,
brand.
Yeah.
When I first met David, I had
a lot of hair.
Yeah,
it
was
big
on the
big
hair.
on hair. Love hair.
Yeah, he was in a hair band actually.
I was in a heavy metal band.
Yeah,
oh, cool.
In high school. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. There's definitely some similarities in heavy metal and heavier EDM.
Oh, is there?
They've got headbangers and
headbanger EDM.
Yeah.
But because I know you since you were just a kid, parents of kids know each other, they're friends, and so I've known your mom forever.
Right.
And unfortunately for you, that gives me access to a lot of information about you that you wouldn't normally have in the podcast situation.
That's rough. Not many of our guests have their moms preload questions.
Exactly.
With
For example, your mom tells me that you taught yourself to let go of your pacifier very independently and very early on.
I still hold on to mine.
You taught yourself how to use the potty.
Yeah.
All by yourself. Your mom said that when she would give you a bottle, often you would throw it away and say, fresh bottle.
Yeah.
By the way, that should be your motto, right? Just like every time someone hands you a bottle of water,
right.
Fresh bottle.
I was a little bit worried about
green room.
Yep.
I was a little worried about the kombucha we gave if we were going to get
fresh bottle.
That's glass too. So.
I also have been told that when you were a young man, very young man, you were very much into superheroes.
Yeah.
That you and your friend Eli used to wear Batman and Superman outfits all the time. In fact, I understand for 6 months you went to preschool dressed as Superman.
That's correct.
Yeah. What was your fascination with Superman?
What is not to be fascinating? Superman.
I guess I enjoyed the whole magic of it as a young kid.
You went for 6 months in preschool every day as Superman, until the school came to your parents and said that it was starting to intimidate the other kids. And your father apparently he wants to be Superman and was going to pull you out of the school. But young Kaivon said, no, that's okay. I'll just stop wearing the Superman.
I'll just be Clark Kent.
Yeah. Switch to Clark Kent. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Let me ask you, was it one of those costumes that had the abs? And the muscles, because that could be kind of intimidating.
Right, that would be intimidating.
Okay.
No abs.
It was just the regular one. But
Hold on,
you wore the cape?
Your mom said there was definitely a cape. Here's
a cape. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Here's a
fantastic.
picture.
Oh, that's
Wait, I have
fantastic.
one more picture I just want to show you. That's Batman.
Yeah,
It's more
a big Batman guy too.
Yeah.
Batman's my favorite now. That's
Oh, you like Batman now?
Yeah.
More than Superman?
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever do a concert dressed in full Batman? I mean,
That's a good idea for a Halloween show.
yeah.
I've dressed up for Halloween twice. I was a spaceman once, and I was Thriller Michael Jackson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With the gloves and everything?
With the one glove.
Did you do any of the dance?
I think I tried to moonwalk really poorly at one point.
You normally wear a football jersey, a Kaivon jersey, right?
Right, yeah.
What's the number on your jersey?
77.
Why is that?
I've always liked 7. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And 2 is better than 1.
2 is better than 1, yeah.
Why didn't we get Kaivon jerseys?
Yeah, we only got hats.
We only got
I'll
hats.
get those for you.
We
I'll
need to
get
work
those
on
for
that.
you.
Wear a
Yeah.
Kaivon jersey.
Yeah.
I represent.
We can match next time. Huh?
So tell me a little bit about your childhood. What do you remember about your childhood?
Yeah, so I grew up being mainly a sports kid. Didn't see myself as an artist at all. Was obsessed with basketball and wanted to be in the NBA up until I was probably
Did you not
17,
make it to the
18.
NBA?
Unfortunately, no. No, but the dream was alive until I was 18.
Okay. Were you happy as a kid?
No, I was a very anxious kid.
Yeah.
Very anxious, very nervous, very quiet until I started experimenting with weed when I was 16. Yeah, about 16 in high school. And then all of a sudden I gained some more confidence and felt for the first time in my life I didn't feel anxious. And I was like, oh, you could feel not anxious? I've never known what that's felt like my whole life.
I had a very similar experience.
Yeah, but
in high school, by the way,
Right.
like same trajectory and everything.
Yeah.
Were you anxious and that's why you
Was
started?
I anxious?
Yeah.
Do you know me?
Actually, he was having panic
I
attacks.
mean, I was the most
and-
anxious kid in the world. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't quiet or anything like that. I hid it really well, but I was an anxious mess.
Yeah,
you know?
I was hyper focused on getting good grades, hyper focused on trying to be the best player on the team, and I remember like distinctly in middle school, that was probably the roughest time, and I remember dreading lunchtime, and most people like lunchtime, but I remember dreading it because I'd have nothing to say, so I'd actually look forward to class because then I didn't have to
off the
worry
hook.
about striking conversation.
There's no performance anxiety.
Right.
And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because you go, what if I won't be able to think of anything to say?
Yep.
And then you can't think of anything to say, and then the panic starts, and it's just,
I mean, we all still have that to some extent, right? I mean, you get in a situation, but it was particularly intense for you. I mean, your mom says actually you were a very happy kid, and then you started school.
Yeah.
And
Then
you became,
reality hit, I guess. Then the real world hit.
Well, you had to like be with other kids and like and figure out what to say, you know, and it's hard. And so you remember sort of struggling your way through school a little bit, and then you found some relief in pot.
Yeah. So for some reason it started giving me confidence, and I was like, I almost made varsity my freshman year of basketball, so I was hanging out with the older kids, and that was giving me confidence too, and I felt like, okay, I guess I'm, I don't know, cool, or I thought I was becoming cool, or something like that.
Right.
So I wasn't as...
And that's the goal at that age, right?
Yeah.
That's all there is.
That's all that mattered in high school, was being cool.
Were you scared of pot initially, and then like, I shouldn't do that, and then you sort of found your way to it? What was like? How did you first start smoking?
Yeah, I think in elementary, middle school, they did a really good job with DARE, because they always said, all right, drugs, you're going to destroy your life.
Right.
And I never understood that, like, drugs or alcohol made you feel something good.
Right.
I didn't know that.
It just
I
was
only
something that
heard the
destroyed your life.
negative.
Yeah,
I only heard the destroy your
Right.
life part. And then I did it, and I was like, oh, now I see why they were drilling that so much, because it makes you feel good. And that didn't click for me. They did a really good job of that, and I think... Maybe I tried a sip of beer before, and I was like, this is disgusting. Why do people do this?
Why do you drink this?
But then
Well, you got to drink 4.
You got to drink 4, yeah. You got to do a few more. But then once I tried it, I was like, oh, I can feel not anxious. This is a revelation. I think I figured out what I want to do in life now.
Did starting to smoke change any of your sort of like outward habits? Like, for example, when I started to smoke... Like, I played varsity basketball, I played varsity soccer, I played varsity baseball, and when I started hitting the pipe, I was like, okay, I quit everything.
Okay.
Like, I quit all my sports, and, like, did you have a similar trajectory, or were you able to do both?
I had this weird chip on my shoulder where I was like, I'm going to smoke, but I want to show that I'll still get good grades and still be on the basketball team, and I really wanted to like change that status quo. I did quit my junior year because the coach was
an asshole.
Yeah, as a lot of coaches were in high school.
Yeah.
So I had to quit junior year, but then I came back to it senior year. I remember I was really determined. I told my friend, because there was a new coach came in. So I was like, okay, I can play again. So I was like, I want to be captain, and I want to get straight A's. And my friend was like, that's impossible. And then I did it because I wanted to show to my parents, like, hey, I can smoke weed and still get straight A's and be captain of the basketball team. But that didn't mean anything to anyone, unfortunately. But I was really determined to show that I could do both.
Right. But no one cared.
No one cared. Yeah. They were like, oh, you smoke weed, that's bad.
Were you smoking every day?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. I had to come home every day and try to hide it.
And what were your parents doing?
Oh, they hated it. They basically thought I was destroying my life.
But you were getting relief.
I was getting relief, yeah. Because I never felt non-anxious any other way.
It's classic self-medicating.
Yeah, for sure. After practice, I was like, okay, I worked really hard in practice. Now I can relax. And then back to the paranoia of going home and trying not to get caught.
Right. That must be a whole trip.
Oh, yeah. I still have nightmares about getting caught smoking. All my nightmares are in high school for some reason, about getting caught smoking weed or basketball, mean coaches.
My high school basketball coach called me Sally.
Why?
Because he thought I was a girl, a pussy. You know, he was just like, you're not tough enough.
He sounds like a great guy.
Oh, he was
nice
horrible.
Is this the same coach that Kaivon had maybe in junior year?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things, you're a basketball player. Your mom tells me that, you know, you would make 10 free throws and miss one and just like obsess about the one that you missed. Like that's sort of the psychology that you were kind of dealing with. A real perfectionist is really what it is.
Yeah, definitely set unrealistic expectations for myself. And it's funny to look back on now, but I would it meant so much to me. I would cry like hysterically after games and so ultra competitive. So I've had to learn to dial that back now because I've learned comparison. It makes you so depressed.
Yeah, comparison is a killer.
Compare and despair.
Yeah, exactly. There's always going to be someone that you think's ahead of you, and why aren't I there? I'm doing this, and they're doing that, and I should be here and not there. So that's been kind of tricky to balance that sports mind of competitiveness and the artist mind of like
inclusiveness. Almost,
right, yeah, or just being like accepting of like this is the art I make and it doesn't need to have more recognition than this artist or that kind of thing. Do
you find yourself falling back into it
every
now and then? I mean, it's so hard not to,
yeah,
right?
I mean, I see an artist and I'm like, he's playing this show in front of this many people and I'm like,
why am I not playing that show?
Why am I not doing that? Because I believe in my art, and maybe their art doesn't resonate with me, and I'm wondering. Then it makes me think about society. Like, society likes this art, and not
maybe
my
I'm
art.
wrong.
Once you start going down that path,
it's pretty dangerous.
Yeah. Where do you think
that's a deep hole?
Yeah.
Where do you think this like hypercritical kind of hyper perfectionist quality came from? Do you think it had to do with your parents, the way they raised you? Do you think it was innate? Where do you think it came from?
I think it was innate because my parents didn't pressure me to be a perfect child or anything.
Right.
I honestly don't know why I was so hyper focused on being perfect in every sense.
Yeah.
In everything I did for some reason.
Yeah.
Which led to a lot of hellish experiences because that's obviously not attainable. Mm-hmm.
See, all my many anxieties and depression and everything like that, I can all kind of trace back to my childhood. Mm-hmm. But in your case, you kind of came preloaded a little bit with
That's what it felt like, at least. I've been to so much therapy and psychiatrists and all that, and they're always like, was there a distinct moment that kind of led you to this sort of... And I'm like, no, I can't really put a distinct moment on it. No, like, super traumatic experience.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I think of it, too. I mean, there's a bit of nurture in there as well, but mostly for me, I always think of it as, like, that's how I came.
Yeah.
Preloaded with all of that, yeah.
I mean, my mom is an anxious person. She had panic attacks.
Yeah. I mean, I think we come into life with karmas and with things that we're meant to deal with. And, you know, I've just always been able to... blame mine to some extent on my childhood.
Yeah.
So you're in high school, you're playing a lot of basketball, you're smoking pot, which is giving you some relief.
Yeah.
High school ends. Where do you go now?
Right. So I remember it was pretty dramatic. I was going to go to college at Loyola Marymount University, and my parents handed me a note in the morning, and I was like, this is weird. getting handed a note.
You mean, are you on your
We're
way
living in the same house?
Yeah,
and
it's like a pink slip. Right?
I'm like,
you're fired.
This is bizarre. And then it said, okay, we're going to drug test you on weed. If you come up positive, we're not going to pay for your college.
Oh.
After I'd already committed and I can't afford $60,000 a year to go to a private school.
Right.
So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I could go two routes here. I can quit smoking weed.
Or I can get my friend's urine.
I did that as well.
Yeah.
I did do that. I don't know if they know that. Sorry, Mom and Dad, if you're watching this. But I did do that, and it did work.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Nicely done.
I carried it in a hand sanitizer bottle.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I was handed this note, and it said, okay, if you're not clean on the next, this summer, we're going to weed test you. Then we're not going to support you in college or pay for your college. And then I thought, okay, I can run away. I can go to SMC, get my own job, just completely separate myself from my family. Or I can quit smoking weed, get to college, and then just go crazy once I get to college.
Right.
And so I did the latter.
Right.
You quit smoking for a period of time?
I did quit smoking that
so
summer.
you could pass the test?
So I could pass the test.
And you passed the test?
Yeah.
And
How hard was quitting?
It was pretty hard, but
Yeah.
I had that notion in my head of like, okay, just 2 more months, and then I can just
do whatever
do it every day. And then I got to college. I'd always gotten good grades. Then I got to college, and then I got a 1.8 for the first time because I was smoking weed before math class at 8 a.m., and that didn't work.
No.
I wasn't able to process math high for some reason. Maybe some people can, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
So now you're getting a 1.8 at school. Now what's going on?
Yeah, now my parents are like, okay, if you don't get good grades now, then again,
We're not paying for it.
We're not paying for it. So
Right.
then I kind of dialed it back on the weed a little bit and then started drinking a lot heavily as you do in college.
Right.
And got my grades up again. And then it was finals of the first semester of sophomore year, and that's when I quit.
Quit school.
Yeah, quit school.
Yeah.
And I had this plan. I was like, okay, that's when I started dabbling with electronic music, and I said to myself, okay, I'm going to leave for 1 year, try this music thing. If it doesn't work out, then I'll come back, like a leave of absence sort of thing.
Right.
Then I dropped out and never came back.
Right.
So, yeah.
And did the music thing work out for you that quickly?
Yeah, so then I wanted to go to this music school for 1 year.
I remember you went to the music
Yeah,
school.
it's this school in Burbank called Icon. It's 1 year school. Once again, I couldn't afford it. So my parents said, I'm really grateful for my parents for this, but again, they said you have to quit smoking weed and you have to get a job. And then I became a notary for a little while, and I quit smoking weed again. And then I started this 1 year school, and then I put out my first song when I was maybe 3/4 of the way through this school. And it started doing pretty well on SoundCloud, back when SoundCloud was more popular.
Yeah.
I remember I gave this kid in my class, he was a SoundCloud promoter. I gave him $100, which was a ton to me at the time. And he said, okay, you'll probably get like 10,000 plays and then it'll fizzle off. But then it just kept growing and growing. And then I thought, okay, maybe I can do this. And then some smaller time managers and agents were reaching out to me, but I didn't have any other music. I just had that one song.
Right.
So I was like, ugh, so what do I do now? They sent them stuff and nothing really transpired. But then I just knew, okay, this song did well. I'm just going to put out a song a month. And I basically been doing that the past 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Was there a turning point, though, in when you realized this is what I'm going to do? I can make a living?
Yeah, something clicked. I was going to music festivals. I was mostly into rap, as most kids were my age, and some rock and roll, too. I love playing Guitar Hero. Wasn't really into electronic dance music. But I went to Coachella in 2014 and experienced it for the first time and felt this sort of unity amongst everyone where I felt like I was part of this show with the DJ and with everyone around me. Whereas when I love rap music so much, but when I saw a rap performance, it kind of felt like everyone was in their own little cliques watching this person, and it wasn't really a community experience. Yeah. So I experienced EDM and was definitely on some substances that might have opened up my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And I felt like peace and community and belonging, which I'd never felt before. So then I started listening to the music, and I'd feel that listening to the music even when I wasn't watching it live. And when I was a sophomore in college, it was my second time at this festival called Hard Summer that happens in LA every year. And I was like shoulder and shoulder with this total stranger, which is something I really loved at these festivals, is total strangers being really, really kind to each other. And they have this thing called P.L.U.R. It's called Peace, Love, Unity, Respect.
Oh, wow.
That's very popular at these EDM things. So I felt a lot of P.L.U.R.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of P.L.U.R. going around. So me and this buddy...
Who you didn't know.
Who I didn't know. I don't know his name.
Yeah.
I hope he's doing well now. I had no contact with him anymore. We were watching this performance, and we were like, man, imagine what it'd be like to be on stage. And something just clicked with me, and I was just like, okay. Then I downloaded music software the next day and started dabbling with it in college in my dorm in between classes. And something clicked with me when I was at home, I think on a break one time, and I was like, man, I have one life. I've tried switching majors 5 times. I'm not enjoying anything I'm studying in college. And nothing was interesting me.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'm really enjoying this music thing. I was showing these beats to my classmates, and looking back at it, they were horrible. But I thought they were incredible. And they thought they were good too, and so I'm really appreciative for their encouragement.
Yeah.
So then I dropped out and I found this school where a few of the people I looked up to in the EDM world had gone to this school. And so I thought, okay, I'll try this school, and I got one life, and I want to do something where I can leave a legacy or an impact. And a big turning point too was I had a boss in college that really tore me out one day. I was a receptionist, and she really tore me out one day, and I was just like, I'm never going to be able to work for someone. Like,
right, if they're going to talk to me like that.
I can't do it. It just wasn't wired in me.
Right.
So I was like, I got to do something independent, and yeah, music spoke to me, so that's kind of triggered the whole journey.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you record this one song, it does pretty well,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you pursue it. How did your career start to take off? What happened?
Yeah, so I was putting out a song a month and still wasn't making any money yet. And then I'm really glad I started putting stuff on Spotify, because that started bringing in a little income. I started getting some Spotify streams. Not enough to live on. And then I got my first show. I put out my first song in 2016. I got my first gig in 2018. It was maybe getting like $500 to play a show. And when you take out the travel expenses, I was losing money still.
Yeah.
But I just kept playing these smaller shows. And then that first song I put out got played by an artist who was massive at the time. I didn't believe it. I got this message from a supporter of mine, and he was like, so-and-so played your song. And I'm like, that's not possible. Like, there's no way he played my song. How did he find my song? Then I saw a video of it, and I was like, that's when it clicked for me. I was like, if this artist playing in front of 20,000 people is playing my song, I can do this. So then I just kept putting out songs, and playing smaller shows, slowly playing bigger and bigger shows. Got my first tour, which is like in all these 250 to 500 capacity type rooms, and we were selling them out, and I was like, okay, this is working. And then started playing festival slots like at the beginning of the day when not a lot of people are there, and then just slowly working our way up, and just kind of dominoed. I just kept grinding at it and kept making music. And
were you happy? So what was it? What was your emotional experience like as this is happening, as your career is growing and building like this?
Yeah, it was really special. I felt sort of that spark and that sort of magic, but it was very fleeting. Like I'd achieve something, like getting a repost from a big artist or a play out, and I'd feel this high for a day, and then it was just like, okay, I'm back to the ground now. Yeah. Or I'd play this amazing show that I'd always dreamed of, and it was amazing, and then it was over. Yeah, and then it was over. And then that's really taught me, like, and I still need to work on that now, to not have that mindset of, once I played this show, I'll feel successful. Once I have this amount of money, once I have this amount of plays, because it'll never end.
You never get to the point where you go, I finally made it, because there's always the next level.
Exactly.
So during this period where your career is expanding, are you still self-medicating with pod?
Yeah, so I smoked weed from when I was 16 every day till I was about 24, I'd say. I'm 29 now. Then all of a sudden, every time I smoked weed, I felt like I was dying, like I was having an anxiety attack, which was really bizarre for me because weed had made me relaxed, and all of a sudden it felt like overnight, like wires had crossed in my brain, and like weed now makes me super paranoid and super uncomfortable, like the exact opposite of how it made me feel.
It just was like that, just one day, or
pretty much, yeah. I think it kind of built up over time. I'd noticed myself like looking in the mirror after I was high and feeling sort of a sense of depersonalization, sort of like I was looking at myself in a
Right.
sense. And I dabbled with psychedelics too, and it kind of, weed started feeling like I was on a bad trip in a sense. It got to the point where every time I smoked weed, it felt like I was like kind of hallucinating, and depersonalization, I don't know what the term is.
Right.
But I was almost living in like the third person,
Right.
like watching myself. Very
Right.
uncomfortable. Like I was in a video game, like observing myself.
Right.
Which might have been the beginning of my spiritual awakening, because I look at, I don't know if I'm awakened or not, but I look at the process of spiritual awakening happening with me as when I realized I wasn't my thoughts, but the observer of the
your
thoughts. That I learned that from Eckhart Tolle. That's what kind of, I think, triggered my whole spiritual journey, is when I realized, okay, I'm the observer. I'm not the thoughts themselves.
You say I'm not sure I had a spiritual awakening, but
Yeah.
I think it's very obvious that you're on a spiritual path. I know a little
That's
bit about
true,
you.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but tell me, so what was the moment where it kind of like opened up for you?
Yeah, so weed was giving me crippling anxiety now, so I didn't have that to self-medicate anymore. I was never a drinker every day type, but then I became like that type to where I'd binge drink on the weekend,
Right.
and I'd look forward to Saturday, Sunday, and just completely obliterate myself. I wasn't the everyday type, but I was
Right.
looking forward to that, and that was what was sustaining me.
Right.
And then one morning, I had one of those mornings where I drank, did some drugs, and I saw the sun come up. And, like, I've had those mornings where you just feel your heart, like, fall into the pit of your stomach when you see the sun coming up and you're completely alone. After having been with friends,
Right.
and you were so happy and, like, on top of the world, I felt amazing. And then all of a sudden I'm...
Because you're drunk.
Yeah, I'm on
and
substances,
drugs,
who knows, and
yeah.
serotonin's releasing all that. And then I'm
Yeah.
alone watching the sunrise, and I can't go to sleep, and I'm so anxious. And I had that morning a lot of times, but for some reason, that was the last time I'm almost 5 years sober now. That last time during COVID, I reached such a low and dark place that I knew, not to get dark, but I knew, like, if I keep this up one of these mornings, I'm not going to make it out of that morning, because the pain is going to be so deep that I'm going to
End it.
end it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, it's like a matter of survival at this point. If I want to survive life, then I can't have another one of these mornings again. So that's when I got sober, but then life really hits you hard when you don't have anything to self-medicate.
Yeah.
Then I think I spiraled into deep, dark places during that sobriety because I have nothing to self-medicate anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's when I think I've dealt with OCD like really intensely, and that got really bad to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. And it also, I'm glad this is over now. For some reason, it felt like I was hallucinating 24/7. And so I'd worried that these drugs and this weed had like permanently damaged my brain.
That's so scary.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
I was
God.
stuck in this trip. Like I'd go to Whole Foods here in Santa Monica and just felt like the world was like melting. And I was just like, I can't even go out in public now because I feel like I'm tripping all the time. So,
That's so
the thought of
scary.
doing a drug was like, I'm already tripping.
Right.
I don't need to do drugs anymore.
Right.
So, and
So
why do you think
that's
you were
super scary.
hallucinating
Yeah, it
24/7? Why was that happening?
I don't know. I think because I'd done some pretty strong stuff and had experiences for
Right.
24 hours, and I'd be like 13 hours into like a psychedelic trip, and I'd be like, is this life now? Am I stuck like this? Like,
What gives you a 24-hour trip? Is that just acid?
acid and like this. It's so funny. It's like peyote. My friend found this hippie's yard. I think they were hippies. And
Yeah.
he found this cactus called San Pedro cactus. He dressed up as a gardener. I had a Jeep. And he cut the cactus from their front yard. And we boiled it down and brought that with us camping with acid.
Whoa.
You're making your own drugs.
Yeah, I mean, he was like, this is going to hit every receptor in our brain, this combination. And it was very beautiful. Like, there were moments where I was like,
Right.
okay, I feel that sort of, the biggest way to put it is that everyone says is like, you can't put it in words, but you kind of just feel the sense of knowing and the sense of connectedness and understanding.
When you're on the substance, when
Yeah,
you're feeling high.
where
yeah.
everything's going to be okay and
Yeah.
like everything, but you can't put it in words, of course.
Yeah.
And I felt that, but then I also felt that sense of panic and that sense of dread and fear, and
Yeah.
it puts you in a very raw and vulnerable and tender place to where if like someone were to yell at me in that state,
Right.
it'd be traumatizing. Whereas if someone does something nice for me, I'm like, oh, I love you so much.
That's the nicest person that's ever.
Yeah. So
it's like when you hear the stories of like Timothy Leary and Ram Dass, particularly.
I love Ram Dass.
Yeah, Ram Dass is amazing. And he talks about like he took so much LSD because he's basically I was having a spiritual experience
every time I took it.
Yeah, but then I'd come down, I'd feel like crap, and it's like he differed from Timothy Leary in the sense it's like, how do I get there without the drug?
Right.
And then he goes to India and then has this whole journey and I think largely
cuts
finds
down
it.
a neighbor's cactus.
No cactus cutting for honest. Okay, so you have this moment of epiphany, like I can't go any lower, or I may not come back.
Right. Yeah. So at this point, I'm just trying to make it through the day.
Yeah.
And survive and keep my career intact and get through the day without feeling like I was going to die or that the world was literally melting all around me.
So wait, how old are you at this point?
So at this point, I'm 24, 25.
25. And your career is beginning to flourish.
Yeah, definitely. The career's flourishing. And
was creating music hard in that state?
Yeah, the OCD kicked in really hard, and it made it hard to do any daily tasks.
So what kind of OCD did you have?
Right.
Because there's a lot of OCDs.
There's a lot of OCD. So mine was basically, a lot of it was in the physical world, but a lot of it was just purely obsessive to the point where
obsessive thinking and
and I wasn't raised like super hardcore religious or anything, but something got ingrained in me when I was young in church or something where I developed this intense fear of the afterlife, of what happens when I die, and this intense fear of going to hell.
Yeah.
And wanting to go to heaven. And I think that played into my perfectionism as a kid.
I mean, if you gotta choose.
Yeah.
It's not a tough choice, right?
But you became obsessed with the fear of going to some horrible afterlife.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Catholic school.
Didn't help.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I look at it as I'm thankful, because if I didn't have this intense fear of hell, I might have killed myself. Because that wasn't an escape. If I kill myself, I end up there. So I was like, fuck, I'm stuck here. Like, sorry for cutting.
No, we're allowed to.
But by the way, that makes you even more panicky.
Exactly.
If you think there's no way out
Yeah.
and I'm stuck here in this misery and these feelings, I mean, that's horrible.
Yeah, it became hell, yeah.
So there, in terms of the OCD, there was obsessive thinking about hell and the ramifications of that potential afterlife. And then was there also like a contamination OCD?
There was, yeah.
So that's a really hard one to deal with.
It was horrible, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone through a lot of the phases where constantly like washing my hands.
Yeah.
Oh, I touched this. Now I touched this person after I touched this.
Right.
Like maybe I put them in danger or whatever, and like hyper focused and setting unrealistic expectations of myself to the point where I didn't want to leave my room.
Right.
Because something bad was going to happen.
Right. And then
Either
you go
to me
out
or
and
someone
do a
else.
concert and then have to deal with it there, right?
I guess I had no choice but to do exposure therapy all the time. And I still have to do it now, and it's still, now I've gotten to the point where I don't believe there is a hell.
Right.
But it's still ingrained in my mind where it's like, oh, I'm still hyper focused on trying to do the right thing and not do anything wrong.
It sounds so painful.
Oh, it's hell. It's
Yeah.
like complete hell. Yeah.
So you have this realization that I can't go on this way.
Yeah.
Now you've got the OCD and you've got all the hallucinations and you're really trying to just get through the day. Mm-hmm. Where do you start to see a little bit of help, relief, some sort of light?
Yeah. So looking back at it now, I was at my grandpa's funeral, and the guy talking, I don't know what that guy's called.
Minister, let's call it.
Conductor or something. I don't know.
Okay.
He mentioned the book The Power of Now. Like,
Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And I was like, why is he mentioning this book at my grandpa's funeral?
Right.
And my sister had it, and I don't think she'd read it. And so I just started reading it, and what he was describing, he describes at the beginning of the book, something pretty similar to what I felt like I was going through, where it feels like your whole world's crashing down. You reach such a level of despair. And in his story, he reaches such a level of despair that the next day he kind of has this instant awakening or enlightenment that he looks back on.
Yeah.
I haven't experienced that, but I thought it was so cool.
When I read that, I was just like, I want that.
I know, I want that.
He was laying there, and the bird chirping outside felt like it was like inside of his own heart, and like, I just like,
and for like 2 years, I think
he was just like, I just wandered around in bliss,
homeless in bliss.
I'm like, I want bliss.
Yeah,
come on, I don't get any bliss.
So I saw that he went through that experience, and I think I saw a parallel. And the feelings he was describing probably is the feelings I felt on psychedelics and stuff in the positive moments.
Right.
And also moments when I've performed before. I feel like I felt that before. Just for like a glimmer.
Right.
Where everything makes sense for like half a second.
Yeah.
Right.
And now he was in that permanent state of that, of everything making sense and being blissful. I also related it too. I think that happened to him when he was 29 and I was in my late 20s. And I'm like, okay, I mean, this path maybe I'm on is making sense now. And then he brought up the "you are not your thoughts," and I'd never had that thought before. I'd always have. I mean, we all have insane thoughts,
right?
And I always thought that these thoughts essentially made my character,
defined you.
Yeah,
They were who you were.
Yeah, that I was my thoughts,
right?
And for the first time, I was like, "Oh, I'm having all these thoughts in my head, but that's not me."
They're irrelevant, basically.
Yeah,
There's that's what's happening in my head. But
yeah, that's like what society's. I don't know what that thing is in my head, but that's not the real me.
Right.
The real me is the one observing those thoughts, which gets you even to more of like a third person, like, oh, I'm really looking at myself now and detaching from myself, which became really liberating for me. Mm-hmm.
Did the fact that you had those experiences of seeing yourself almost detached in your drug state kind of give you a perspective on what Eckhart Tolle was talking about?
Looking back at it now, it was so traumatizing to me at the time to feel that way, but I think I was beginning to awaken because I was like realizing that this is just a vessel and I'm observing myself.
Right.
That I'm like the soul behind it in a sense.
And then how did you pursue that? What did if you saw the opportunity to help yourself and to find relief going down the spiritual path, basically, it sounds like.
Essentially. Yeah. I'm so grateful for his YouTube.
Yeah.
I'd watch all his talks on YouTube, and then anytime I was entering that sort of state of like hallucinating or feeling really uncomfortable, like the world was crashing down on me, I'd watch him and I'd just feel peace.
Yeah.
Because he'd bring me to the present. And he's saying the same things over and over again, but every time I listen to him, I hear something new.
Exactly.
That makes sense and clicks.
You got to hear it again and again
and again. I mean, even when I'm like, I travel through airports all the time and very anxious and stressful still all the time, and I'll just throw on his audiobook or his YouTube, and I'm just like, it just grounds me.
That was the first book on spirituality, and I had read plenty, but that was the first one and he wasn't giving any new information. It was just something about the way that it was packaged.
It's become such a popularized book, which I'm really grateful for, but I feel like people hear The Power of Now and they think it's like cliche or something.
Yeah, like The Secret.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's
I
really
mean, he's
the real
legit.
deal.
Yeah. I mean, he's in a tremendous state, it would appear to me, and he's a great communicator. So it's a really powerful book. But and by the way, those two experiences that you described, seeing the sunrise and having that low, and then reading the book and having this sort of like awareness expansion, just sound like classic, spiritual awakening moments.
Totally.
So you can embrace those as your spiritual awakening, even though you seem a little hesitant to.
Yeah, I think so. I have so far from having everything figured out, but I do feel like I'm on the path.
Yeah. So what do you do? Yeah. What do you do now on the path? What does your path look like? How do you pursue? I mean, just creating music and being in that environment and sharing it with people must be an incredibly spiritual experience.
It is. It's very special, but I feel like I've reached this point in life where everything's a double-edged sword. Where now it's like I don't put so much meaning or belief into the physical world as defining my entire happiness, like the external world defining how happy I am on the inside. But then on the flip side, I'm like, okay, well, if the external stuff doesn't define my happiness, then
why am I doing
nothing
anything?
really matters.
Yeah,
what am I doing?
I know.
So that's been the weird double-edged sword where it's like I'm working towards a goal, but then in the back of my head I'm like, Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter though if you reach this goal
Yeah.
or not, but you got to strive for something.
Well, Eckhart Tolle actually he talks about that stuff, right? Your life
Yeah.
and your physical life, or you know,
That's
like he always talks about like, you know, your life and who you are, right? And
Right.
but also here you are having this experience, and you kind of want to make the best of that too.
Right.
So have you made sense of that at all, or?
It's tricky, yeah. Like, I feel like I still get really passionate about certain projects I'm working on. I feel like I'm trying to send a message through my music of spirituality and something that's like going to make an impact on people's lives, hopefully. And then I'll see someone like putting out some music that's just like about like, I don't know, like ass shaking and like doing drugs and stuff, and they're playing these massive festivals, and I'm like, do I need to pivot here? Like, why aren't I resonating with people with my message?
Right.
I've been to your shows. Your shows are so full of love. I mean, it's
you.
really you just sort of embrace your crowd, and you can just see how you're exuding this passion for what you do, and also this devotion to the people who are sharing the experience with you. It's a very intoxicating, very powerful experience being at your shows.
Now I'm jealous. How come I wasn't
invited? We got one next month. You should come.
I'll come for sure.
Yeah, and
I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Oh, they're fantastic.
I would love that.
So here you've got Eckhart Tolle saying, everything here is an illusion. We talk about this on the podcast a lot.
I'm sure.
And yet, here you are living in this life.
You've got 80 years. What are you going to do?
Right?
I
mean, so how do you make sense of that?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I do still feel lost in that sense. But there's something profound with music. As I keep dabbling in it, it gives me feelings I can't explain. And I feel like that sort of sense of peace that I can't explain, which keeps me going after it. And also the hope of just helping others. Like, the idea of helping others and the idea of feeling things through music that I haven't felt before, and also creating something that hasn't been created before, keeps me excited and inspired.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, like I said, I'll see someone like having a lot of success, and then I have to flip to the other part of my brain and be like, this is just external things, and
well, that
get consumed in that.
It seems like it's the constant reminder for yourself. You have to keep checking yourself, right? You don't have to go there, right? That's not a good path for you.
Yeah.
Stay here.
And there's also that person who you're going, but they're doing so well, and but if you got into that person's head, are they happy? No, they're probably going, I would like to be of this person, or I wish I had this girlfriend. We're all sort of going through the same stuff.
Well, for all you know, they're literally saying, I can't believe this song is about ass shaking and doing drugs, and this is my life, right?
Yeah.
That this is what,
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like,
I
like that
but
music.
who knows, right? Yeah.
David potentially will shake his ass for you.
I'm an ass shaker.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. The way I understand it is this is all temporary and impermanent and ultimately is dust, but in this moment while we're here, this, your music, pursuing your music, us doing a podcast or writing a movie or whatever we do, that's the way we as human beings have the opportunity to learn all these things and grow and have those feelings and experience. Like when you have that experience, when you're talking about the music and you feel something you hadn't, you're tapping in my opinion, you're tapping into your own divinity in that moment. So you're using the physical world to get to a higher level spiritually, which is why you showed up in this human form and came here to, so it is impermanent. It doesn't really last.
Yeah.
But you're here, so you might as well play it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way of saying it. And I think what's come to my mind now is that I've enjoyed things now that make me present. Like this podcast right now, I've been very present during it. I haven't, even though we've been talking about the past and all that stuff, I've been in this moment. And I think that's why I enjoy music so much, that's what originally brought me into it, is it brought me present, not thinking about the past, the future. And that's, I feel like, when we're at our most divine, is when we're in the moment and not necessarily thinking.
Exactly.
That's the key. I always thought it was so beautiful. Eckhart said his greatest accomplishment is I can decide to stop thinking.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
And I'm like, wow, man, that's awesome. Like, I'd love to do that. Like, just to come into this moment and not think.
And
but
sports, by the way, are good for that too.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. Doing physical things, sports,
just
and like golf. I like golf because you're just thinking about that next shot.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about, I got to do this later.
And I know in my life that is absolutely, when I'm suffering, it's because I'm worried about something in the future or regretting something from the past.
Exactly.
But you can also beat yourself up because Eckhart Tolle says, stop thinking.
And it's the hardest thing in the world to do.
For years and years, I spoke through a medium to this spiritual entity called Guidance. And I once asked them, they were very smart, and I went to ask them, I can't stop thinking. My mind is going, 1,000 miles an hour. And their attitude wasn't try harder. Their attitude was, of course you can. It's a busy world you live in. There's a lot going on. Give yourself a break. You can find your moment, your present moment, and witness your thoughts. So I just think it's important that we don't beat ourselves up.
Yeah.
So in your life, is there a moment that you think of as kind of the high point of your life? Is there a moment that you go, oh, that was a beautiful moment?
Yeah, I think I was telling you guys about that festival I went to in college. In 2023, I got to play that festival and bring my family and all the friends I used to party with and rave with there. And I played this video on the big screen in front of the whole crowd of me on my friend's shoulders in 2015 at the same festival.
You're performing.
Yeah.
And on the screen behind you, you have video. You have amazing
Before
video.
I go on, yeah. So before I go on, I'm playing this video and I'm like narrating.
Uh-huh.
And then it's me. It doesn't look anything like me. I have a shaved face and short hair. And I explain on the video, before I come out on stage narrating, I'm like, you're maybe wondering who this is. This was me in 2015, and I've been dreaming 9 years to say this. And then I hop on stage with the microphone and say, I am Kaivon. Hard summer. Are you ready? And I was watching that video before I hopped on the stage that I was playing for everyone. And I got choked up a little because I was like, okay, I did it.
Yeah.
Like, I dreamed
full circle.
That was the full circle, yeah.
I love what you just said. You said, I dreamed it, and I made it happen.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to come out there and go, I'm Kaivon, fresh bottle.
Just throw that in the crowd.
That's amazing. You dreamed it and you made it happen, which is, I have to say, like, when you think about what you have created, I remember learning just through my son and your mom and everything like that, that you had left college and were going to the music school, and I was like, wow, that's a hard path. You know, I mean, that's a risky move, And then I just kept seeing, you showing up more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And my son Oliver and all his friends are like, Kaivon did it! They're all so excited about what you accomplished, and you dreamed it. And what's also so interesting is you found your way through all this pain in order to get there. And actually, what it seems you say is, in many ways, the pain is what kind of propelled you, it's what shaped you.
That's what I was going to say. It's just, it doesn't seem like he got through the pain. It's like that the pain sort of shepherded him into the direction that he was meant to go, or something like that.
Yeah, and continues to, it sounds like.
Yeah, I guess that's the fuel for the music. I mean, if I had like a really cheerful life, maybe my music wouldn't feel good to make or make an impact on other people as well.
Okay, last thing is, your mom tells me that you are an excellent singer.
Oh, no.
You don't necessarily sing on stage, though, right? David is a pretty good singer too.
Yeah.
So I think the two of you.
What are we gonna sing?
Kaivon does a great rendition of Danny California. What are the lyrics for Danny California?
California, rest in peace.
I don't think you have to sing.
No, you does.
Say to him.
No, just shut up, David. It's my podcast. Get away. Okay, So ladies and gentlemen, we have on our podcast Kaivon singing, and along with the heavy metal rocker from the 1980s. Your band was called what?
Asylum.
I
love that.
Okay.
I love that.
All right.
A duet with these two outstanding musicians singing the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Mm-hmm. Not the Papers. The Peppers.
Singing the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And take it away, gentlemen.
Let's see. All right, we can do this.
We can
3, 2, 1. California, rest in peace. Simultaneous release. California, show your teeth. She's my priestess, I'm your priest. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was great.
We need Flea here.
That was great.
Baby.
Kaivon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
you have
me.
such a fascinating life. I knew you when you were just a little spud.
Yeah.
And here
I
you
didn't,
are.
but you're a delightful
Yeah.
man.
Oh,
You
thank
are.
Likewise.
Yeah.
And I know your life is full of challenges and difficulties, and you're doing such cool and interesting things. And let's see where the life of Kaivon August leads us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jay, David, thank you guys. I love what you guys are doing on this
you so
show, and
much.
I'm a big fan.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you guys.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to Spiritually Challenged on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.